You are visiting the United States from the lovely city of Dallas. Why don't you give us a sound check with your beautiful new remote setup?
Well, I want to emphasize that, this is an improvement over my previous on the road microphone, which, as you may recall, I had to use an iron for. But
I
here
thought that
you can
sounded pretty
see
good,
that
though. I got to
you
be
can
Yeah.
see
honest with
that.
you. It's not really a
Oh,
visual medium, so I think even though streaming is, I thought the iron both sounded good, functional, and frankly, it brought the kind of motif to the podcast that we're known for. So
how's this
Hard and
working? Oh,
strong.
I want to give some props to Bart and George, who's here with me, and he
Barton.
has graciously volunteered to go get me a beer. That's right. And it's only because we have a is it a multi-decade long relationship at this point, Barton?
Oh my gosh, it is. It was 72?
Yeah, 72. 5 years before I was born, but that's okay.
Me too.
That's probably when you were at Harvard, right?
Yes, exactly.
oh,
you were talking to John
jeez, now
Travolta.
it's gonna be
Barton
now
didn't
they're
go to
on.
Harvard because he hasn't told me about it a dozen times.
Yo,
No, didn't he? I think he went to school in New. Didn't he go to school in
He's only told me about
Boston?
it a dozen times.
I think you say it that way, right? Don't you just say like I went to school in Boston?
Yeah, yeah.
Just later.
Yeah.
You never
yeah,
say
he's-
Harvard, right?
No.
I just Boston.
Oh,
small school.
would either of you like a beer?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thanks.
A morning
good.
beer? As they
Anyways.
call it here, a morno.
And really, doesn't that beg the question? Isn't Harvard technically a college, not a university, or is it Harvard? It's like they have.
Oh,
No, that's right. I guess Harvard University has colleges, right? But
Yeah.
don't you get
Yes.
the AB from Harvard, not the BA? Isn't it that kind of thing?
wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. I think it's
Who
the
would have
AB.
known that we went to state
Throwing a lot of
school?
Harvard shade here.
Wait, did you go to UT, Brandon?
I did not go to UT.
Where'd you go?
I went to Southern Methodist SMU,
Ah.
which is also not Harvard.
Huh.
It's the
Or as I
Harvard
like
of
to
Highland
say, we
Park.
went to school in Dallas, which is not like saying you went to school in Boston at all.
Is there a
Totally
Northern
different.
Methodist?
Yeah, but up north they would call them like Wesleyan. It would be like a such and such Wesleyan University.
Oh, okay.
That's how it works.
Huh.
All right, let's
Wondering
get
how
the let me put it in the old general channel here.
Not good.
Wow, I'm amazed this is working.
Nothing but the best for our listeners. Absolutely stunning. I'm as shocked as you are that this worked. Like me working on my Python Juniper notebook. It's like I'm as shocked as you are. We made it this far. Oh, all right. Oh. I want to send her. All right, Cote, we still good? Maybe we'll do a little meetup talk. So you still coming to Austin? We still doing planning
Yeah.
to be at the meetup? I hope.
Absolutely. One of my coworkers, Whitney, said that she was going to quote unquote crash the meetup, but
It's not crashing.
She doesn't have to crash. Like
she's a real. No, she was joking. Of
She
course.
can sign up or just show up. That would
It'll
be
be fun to see her.
acceptable.
The first time I met her in person was we just happened to be in the Austin airport at the same time. We were going back to Amsterdam. It was such a delight, and she was traveling somewhere too. Very,
Wonderful.
very nice.
Absolutely wonderful to hear.
All right. Well, you need to end 15
That's
minutes
not
from
really
now,
a hard
Brandon.
stop, but I just can't go too much. I mean, that's
Well, it's going to
I-
become a hard stop if you take too long, too crispy.
No, I've got my son on. I guess you guys are parents. I've got 3 timers set. I said just got to take it out in 55 minutes.
Oh my
think
God!
You think he's
Look
gonna
at
be
this,
able
he
to do
actually
it?
Brought a beer.
Yeah, Shriner. Shiner?
You know, you don't need a Harvard education to know how nice that is.
Oh, he should have got you.
He's loving it.
Should have got you a Yingling. This is not
They don't
really
have a
Boston.
Yingling in there.
That's not Boston, I guess. I don't know what the rate. I don't know what the quintessential Boston.
Samuel
beer is.
Adams.
Samuel Adams. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
What did
think
you drink
on
when you were at
Boston
that
drink.
Boston college?
I don't think. Who was at Boston College? Who's that for? What are you talking about?
Oh, Barton went there in the 50s, so they didn't have Sam Adams.
There was a Sam Adams bar now that I think about it.
Oh. That might have been owned by the original Sam Adams, though.
Exactly.
Or his family, at least.
In Boston, am I right?
Actually, Cote, it's Cambridge.
Cambridge.
That's
Oh
right,
yeah,
Cambridge.
sorry. You know, I'm just a country boy. I'm not really. I don't know what goes on.
I'm just a space chicken.
Well, these are
All
good
right.
topics. I haven't read the devs don't want to do ops, but maybe we can go over that anyways.
Well, you want to do live also too. I mean, you obviously were at DFW DevOps days. Always good
Yep.
to get a live check in on that if you want to,
Sure.
if that's your thing.
Okay.
All right, no ads. We can just go all the way through.
No ads. Okay, so it is 5:45 p.m. Central Time. We should try to wrap up around 6:40.
Sounds
Brandon?
good. Let's shoot for
Okay.
that.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I'm here in the States. I was remembering when I came here that every time Matt Ray traveled internationally, I always like to have him give us a debrief of the complete end-to-end experience. And I was thinking, I'm not really interested in that nowadays. I think it's mostly fine. It's not quite as fascinating. However, I do want to cover something that I think is still worth commenting on in the travel experience is like the hotel experience in America versus Europe, I think is very interesting, right? Like I think, and is like all of my commentary, it's going to be kind of snooty, but like it's hard to get a shitty hotel in Europe. Like if you stay at a Marriott place, like they're all generally okay. Now they might be like super boring, and that I don't know what to call it. I'm going to call it like European style, where everything is like very square. It's like IKEA style, kind of like
Sure.
IKEA plus plus. And so you might end up at a place like that. But here, no, you can get a crappy hotel in Europe, but it's more
It,
likely.
it's like when I went with my wife, and the first time we went to Europe, and I thought I was still a college student. I was thinking, oh, we're gonna do the backpacking youth hostel. And after one youth hostel, she was like, nope, I have a job. We're staying in a real hotel.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And so like, whereas when you come to the States, I'd kind of forgotten that you're kind of rolling the dice, right? So I'm staying at there's several of them. I don't want to shame them, but in the Dallas Fort Worth area, I'm staying at a Renaissance, and you can tell that they need to have a Renaissance, like kind of update things here and there. And I think the tell is that if you go, I mean, one of my favorite, I think people know that I really enjoy hotel room coffee. It's just like I feel like maybe I should do some videos about that to kind of be a connoisseur of it. But you can tell that if you're in one of these crappy states, one where you get, I'm sure you both have encountered this. You get the in-room coffee machine that has the little plastic tray with the bag of coffee in it, right? And if you encounter that, either you're in Las Vegas or like you're in an older like Marriott that has like they're not quite in that part of the spreadsheet where it's time to spend the money on the Renaissance, the Renew yet. And I
Well,
think that I'm in one of those now. I'm going to be in a Renaissance in Austin in this weekend. I'll take some notes, see
Take
how
some
that
notes.
one's doing.
because there's a difference between tired hotel and gross hotel. Right.
Ooh, yes.
Is it just run down, and it needs to spruce up, a couple coats of paint, new carpet, and it'll be good as new, or
Yes.
should it be condemned?
Now this is
Cote,
an excellent point. Excellent point, because
Why
I
did
feel
you
like
I was gonna say, Cote, why did you pick the Renaissance? Like, because you're a veteran of many Marriott brands, so it seems like there must have been some type of
that is
real thought that went into the choice of the Renaissance first. Like Marriott
Was
by
it like
Courtyard would be like
Bonvoy
the
or-
one I would have
Yeah.
guessed.
Yeah. Courtyards actually, in my experience, are pretty nice, but they're consistent, right? Like, but
Solid.
yeah. I think a Courtyard is kind of like a Burger King, right? Like, it's not like the leading brand, but you might end up there and you'd be like, oh, this is a good meal. In fact, we were vacationing in the beaches of Bordeaux, and we stopped at a Burger King on the way there. And the kids enjoyed a Burger King, and Kim was like, I'm going to stop ordering from McDonald's. Did you see this burger that we got? The kids loved it. It was cheaper. Like, it was great stuff. So I think that's a pro tip there. If you're in France, eat at the Burger King. But back to your point, your question is accurate, because I did put a lot of deliberate thinking into selecting the Renaissance. There's two reasons, one of which is boring, which is the location. We're here in Plano, and it was close to it, which is nice. But I think you have identified something I haven't really pinpointed, is I have must be some name for this syndrome, but I am always optimistic that I'm finally going to find a good Renaissance. And so like every now and then, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give it another try. Maybe like once or twice a year. And every goddamn time, I'm like, should have just stayed at the Marriott, right? Like generally the Marriott is pretty good, right? Like it's no JW Marriott. It's not going to be like a W or a Westin, but it's solid, right? Things are fine. But this Renaissance, however, though, it does have that design where the middle of it is completely empty. So it's like very airy and stuff, and it's got like the water effects. It's nice, but yeah, I guess I've learned the lesson. Just don't stay at a Renaissance. But I got that coming up this weekend, so we'll see how that works.
Isn't the Austin Renaissance the one that had like the swans in it?
Yes. It is. I totally
Are they still
forgot about
there?
that. I hope
It
so.
seems like PETA must have saved them at some point. Those swans had the most miserable life.
I don't know. It's air conditioned in there. That's
Yeah, but
pretty
they have
nice.
like a kiddie pool and like two or three swans in it
Huh.
inside a hotel.
Is this because of you?
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna report back on that. If there's swans in there still. Huh. Okay. Well, so I am here. The reason I'm in town is for DevOps Days Dallas. I think they formally call it DevOps Days Dallas, not DevOps Days Dallas Fort Worth. But it's hard to just say Dallas. You always want to throw in the Fort Worth there. I don't know. I think one of the speakers made some joke about the good side of town because they were from Fort Worth or something, which is probably funny. But I gave a talk today, which was fun, and apparently they fully sold out. They have like 500 people, over 500 people, I think, who are attending here, if you include people like myself, which is like, I mean, that's pretty large. I think have y'all had this experience of like conferences you've gone to, that they're especially, well, I should say DevOps days. It seems like there's a lot of pent up desire to go to these, and they've been maxed out. Most that I've encountered and heard. Have y'all encountered that?
That sounds great. No.
I was gonna say, but I think DevOps. I mean, not to undersell other conferences, but I think DevOps days, just in general, it's a pretty big brand these days. Like it feels like that. It's
Yeah.
kind of gone. I mean, the days of that being kind of like, oh, it's like 30 people in one room. It feels like
Oh yeah, that's
for the
long
major
gone.
cities, it feels pretty big. These and that I would say there's definitely pent up demand to get out. But I think DevOps days, that combined with sort of the brand, it'd be interesting to get your take in when you're out at the VMware Explore conference conference to see what the attendance there as well. But I don't know. I think it's generally upticking, but I think DevOps Day is probably a special one too, right? It's probably one that people go out of their way to make because it's been a while.
And to that last point, I think another thing that I don't know if the rest of the conference world has figured out how to replicate this is that like DevOps days are also regional conferences, right? Like this one's in Dallas. I ran into someone who she was one of the people who runs the Raleigh one, right? Like so like you don't really have to travel to go to a DevOps days, which I think has a huge effect on like you do have to travel to go to a VMware Explore, which is next week.
Sure.
I think August 29th to September 1st. You could still register. I hear you can get an expo pass for $50 if you just want to come check out the floor or whatever. But you know that hurdle of having to travel is a pretty big hurdle.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you have all these regional conferences, especially in an area as big as Dallas Fort Worth, you can just like drive 30 minutes and get there, and it's pretty cheap.
Well, that's always been the allure of the DevOps days is each one has a local flavor to it, right? You try to get local presenters so you could talk about, they could talk about, hey, this is what's happening at my company in Plano or Richardson or wherever you may be. And
Ooh, Richardson, good pull. Irving.
Yeah. So I mean the whole point to the DevOps days is yes, you might have some luminaries such as yourself dropping in, but hopefully the other talks are going to be local folks, especially the hallway track and the the sessions afterwards. The the bar camp style.
Yes. What do they call open spaces?
Open spaces. Yes.
Yeah. Do you think those are good?
Yes. That's that. they are good when they have the local flavor, right? I mean, you could say like, oh, let's talk about the handoff between developers to operations, and then somebody's like, over here in um, Arlington, this is how we do it.
That's right. Well, it's the I-635 divide. That's all I know. That's the only
Yes,
highway up here. Big in the
I-35
state.
east and west, right?
Oh man, and I gotta say, I mean, it's not so much that I forgot, but I was reminded of just like, man, if you were a European driving on the highway system over here, you would be like, I don't understand how this country has over 300 million people who are still alive. It's just like, it's like in Wreck-It Ralph 2, what's the name of that video game that they play? It's like Death Run out there. It's just fucking crazy, right? And like this, you got like 5 lanes and people changing them and like road closures, and you got this Chevy Caprice over here, and then a bunch of like Escalades, and it's just like bonkers. Like
Yep.
it's pretty intense.
Luckily, you took the train, right?
Yes, I wanted to have. I actually did.
The mass transit that Dallas Fort Worth is known for.
That's funny. I accidentally looked that up because by default I have things set to like biking and public transit and Google Maps, and so that was the first thing it showed me, and I was like, ooh, well, why would I drive for like 10 minutes when I could take 90 minutes to get there? That would be much better, which is just insane. But
Yeah, I'm headed to on a company offsite next month, and I did the same thing. I was like, oh, I wonder if I could take the train. And no, there's no train. It's just whatever. Yeah. And then of course I was like, I wonder how walkable it is. Another joke.
Well, beyond the transportation, Kete, what's any highlights? Was it just your typical format and kind of like keynotes and breakout sessions? Any
yeah, I mean, I think there was a good
revelations
balance
of something? Go ahead.
I think there's a good balance of several. You had the career talks, the kind of self-help talks, and then there was some talks about automating things, your tools and stuff like that. But yeah, I've spent most of the time catching up with people, including I would like to mention, we don't have any ads, but I would like to give an ad for Bart and George, who brought me a beer, and we've been hanging out, spending a lot of time with each other. You may remember him from interviewing Matt Ray some episodes ago, but he's been doing a great job here.
Thank you.
So go to bartandgeorge.net and tell them that your friends at Software Defined Talk sent you.
bartandgeorge.net/SDT.
Yes, that's right. But yeah, I mean, I think in talking with people, it goes back to what I was saying is like, yeah, there's apparently people are interested in computers. It's quite good, and there's tons of sponsors here. I guess all I'm saying is I haven't actually listened to that many talks, Brandon.
Nice. Well, in the hallway track, I guess, because there's this article that came out this week. I thought it was, I don't know, maybe just a provocative headline. It's basically, devs don't want to do ops. So I'm just wondering, was there any talk about, hey, I'm a developer and I've gotten involved in DevOps, but I want to go back. I don't want to be involved in ops. Was there a session on that?
That I should test that out, but so far I think I've mostly talked with operations people. I'm always I hate doing the raise your hand thing, but I should probably force myself with these to be like, how many people are application developers, and see how many people raise their hands. Which I mean, that was a little bit of the basis of the talk that I was giving, is like, you should remember that there's this dev part in DevOps, and pay attention to what they need. I don't know. That was only one angle, but whatever.
That's been the observation of DevOps days, since the beginning. Is like, it wasn't. We've always been trying to drag the developers into the conversation, right? The ops people are like, hey, thanks for throwing this over the wall. You want to come visit us, Morlocks, on the other side of the wall, and then developers are like, no thanks, I'm good. It's all good over here. But we can't. I'm saying this as a former developer, pretending to be the operations guys. Like, we can't let them get away with that, right?
No.
That's what's come out of the last 15 years of this is, hey, we need developers to do a better job. We got things like observability and telemetry coming out of it, better stack traces and better logging. But at the end of the day, it still feels like a lot of it is, hey, operations, we've tried to make your life easier. And you know, I'm still on the give developers pagers bandwagon.
How do you think the current mini wave, Brandon, of thought leadership on this topic? I think there's been two things published recently, if I recall. Like, has it resolved the issue? Is there no dev and DevOps? How's it going to?
Well, I thought this article, I mean, it's a little bit of I don't know, clickbait, but I think it kind of does hit on something that probably not talked about at the DevOps days, because I think the people that are are not interested are probably not attending, right? Would just be but if you've kind of, I guess it's just sort of like how someone views themselves. Like if I kind of view myself like, hey, I'm a software engineer, I really want to spend my time writing code. I think a lot of one potential way to think of like that day is like, hey, I go to the sprints, I get my stories assigned. Once they're assigned, I'm pretty much just heads down, I'm getting that done. Of course, you're writing my unit tests and things like that and working with maybe some architects, but like, that's what I want to spend my day doing. And I don't want to spend a lot of time outside of kind of the domain and the, the kind of the, if you will, the quote unquote difficult software problems that I'm solving. And I don't know, I do think there's sort of like an undercurrent of like the people that's what someone wants to do. And they don't necessarily want to carry the pager, or like they do want to kind of be abstracted as much from like the quote unquote infrastructure as possible. So it is, I don't know. It's probably like a good check-in, like around like, well, there's a lot of reasons that doesn't work, and go all the way back to the beginning of DevOps. Like, I guess at the very, I don't know, can't remember who was, I don't know, Matt, you weren't at the first one, but anyway, the idea,
No.
Whoever it was your old former coworker, right? Schaefer, it wasn't, or something, I can't remember who that was, but, kind of like, hey, the problem with that is, of course, like you have these massive outages and, how do we fix it? But like, I don't know. I think there's always still been like around, I guess maybe the personal choice of it all. It's like, well, if that's not what I really want to do, should I just not work in software or go work in like research where you don't have something in operations? Or is there still a place for me? Like in, and obviously certain people have certain skills in development where like they just don't do the ops part, right? They're just they just get left alone.
Well,
like they're like,
and
that person's doing this hard thing and no one else knows how to do it. So they don't carry the pager. At least, I don't know, Matt, what do you think?
I still feel like the dev side has an opt-in angle to it. They're like, oh, I'm just not good at that. My job is over here and I'm not good at that ops part, so I'm not going to do it. And they can get away with that, right? I mean, for better or worse, be like, well, do you want somebody who's not committed to making things better? And I can't even say like this is a blocker to advancement for developers. I think that there is there's just not a desire for buy-in from everybody. I mean, it's there are definitely lots of folks who are like, hey, we're all in this together. Let's try to make this better for everyone. But there are other people who are just like, hey, I got code to write.
Well, what's your take on like, because I think the word you used there was like pretty insightful. It's like, in devs sort of opting in. And another way I sometimes think it, I was going to say the other thing I always feel like, and Matt, I want you to like, shoot this down, is like sometimes I think developers feel like, well, they're sort of like opting in for more work, right? And the ops people are sort of kind of just doing the same. Like the ops person doesn't like the dev person picks up the pager, right? Or should.
Right.
But the ops person doesn't like, oh, you know what? I got to go design the new subsystem and like, I got to go deal with this scalability thing. Like I got to go re-architect this thing because it just doesn't work. Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe at least that's my impression. Like the ops doesn't like opt into the hard software engineering problem, but feel free to shoot that down. I don't know, Matt, what's your take?
There definitely are. I mean, there are lots of shops that are like, we're about to do a hard software problem, right? We're launching a SaaS and it's going to have this many users. And you know what? If you don't think about the operations to it, it's going to fail, right? There's just no two bits about it. But then you do have lots of other folks who are like, hey, I'm a front end developer, or I'm doing my Lambda functions over here, and I don't really want to think about anything other than just what I do. And there's space for both of them. But it's really a question is like, how's your organization built? And some organizations are not built to be DevOps organizations. They're built to like have, hey, we took the sysadmins and we called them SREs, and the developers just do whatever they want. I'm not gonna say it's viable. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's preferable, but it's definitely something.
Yeah, it totally can work. And maybe that's like kind of, it's like in some ways it's like a variation of this like whole like work, back to the office. Apple's like, calling people back to the office and again, they don't want to go, kind of back to the opt-in. Like I think maybe that's the same thing here. And it's like, I guess both with like the Apple thing or like working somewhere and as well as this is like, I think if you're going into it and like you're recruiting, as long as you're upfront, like if you're very upfront with like someone, hey, this is a, even use the phrase, maybe that's even wrong. Being more explicit, like, in our organization, developers are on call. The rotation is this, right? You will spend your time working on these engineering problems, but you also spend your time thinking about this infrastructure. So like, if you're really clear in the job before someone takes it, I think that's good, right? Because that's, kind of just finding the right fit. I guess it's just when someone walks in from the outside and it's just like, oh, we're doing DevOps, right? And everybody in the room, there's like a group of people, it's kind of like the agile thing. It's like, okay, that's it's kind of the, Coach, it's the stuff you talk a lot about. It's like, okay, there's going to be a lot of digital transformation culture talk here, right? To get a bunch of people on board, but a lot of people will just be like, that's not what they opted into, right? That's not, if I'm a VMware admin and I love it, because you could say, I mean, we've kind of picked on development, but we go the other way. Like some people are like, hey man, I know VMware, I am an expert at it. I know how to make it all work, and that's what I do, and that's kind of where I want to be.
But that part's shrinking. Yeah,
that part's shrinking.
Those roles are shrinking, right? Those roles are shrinking because it's harder to be like, I'm a storage admin, because the cloud is eating up a lot of the drudgery of those IT operations jobs. You can't be an Exchange operator, right? And because like that should be a SaaS, that should be outsourced. And so, operations people are generally being asked to step up and become more involved in, running the code, not just, IT. And what I think there's not an equivalent level of buy-in from the development side.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. I mean, I think most of the time when you get like behind the scenes around a team, there is sort of like, regardless of titles, there's like an informal hierarchy, right? There's, like I said, there's always there's the person that has this special skill that only knows this, and you're kind of told, leave that person alone. That person does what they want. And then there's maybe like a sports team, right? There's sort of superstars or whatever, just people that have certain skills. And there's other times like, no, the rest of everybody else, like everyone else is taking the pager, So
that is like, the punter. He punts. He does not participate in any
that's
other
what I'm saying.
drills.
The punter, that's probably a good way to say it. Like, that's right. The punter does not do contact drills. That's just how it is. The quarterback does not get tackled in practice. Everyone else gets tackled. Like, it's just like those are the rules. So maybe there's some of that. And I think there are other titles. Like I always think like CTO and architect are always like interesting titles because they're sort of like, is in some ways not defend anyone has an architect, but like sometimes it's a good shield to be like, whoa, I'm the architect. I'm not I'm not carrying the pager, right? Like there are certain titles that seem to like kind of go with that as well. So I don't know. Maybe that's your next thing, Coach, your next DevOps day. Like maybe you should have that, like developers CTO forced to be at this conference that don't want to be here. Like maybe like,
raise your hand.
No, do a talk. Be like, I'm going to be talking to people that are forced to do DevOps, that don't want to do it, that want to solve hard software engineering problems and want to work in an office by themselves and not be disturbed. Come over and let's talk about what you're doing and see if you fit into this organization.
I am not too hot on the open spaces format. However, I was talking with all of our great friend No SSH JJ, and he tipped me off that it's a great place to learn about new things, right? To go to the open spaces. But maybe I should propose, if there's open spaces tomorrow, an open space called "If you are an application developer, come to this," and I'll see if anyone shows up. And that'll be the entire session. I'll just count them and I'll say like, "Good talk." And we'll see what that could be my whole.
Well, and the follow up is why did you come? Why did you come? And were you forced?
That sounds. Like
are you looking to break down the walls between dev and ops? Are you like this pioneer?
Well, that's what it's like. Get them to tell some stories. Like find someone there that's sort of seen the light, right? That's what you always want. You want some type of case, informal reference. Be like, and especially someone that's really honest about it. It's like, they came in and gave the culture talk. I hated it, right? and I really like working on this, and then they would say something like, but it turns out when I did do this, it made me better at my job because I was like things I just never thought about. I took advantage of, and I got a total new appreciation, not only for the operation side, but for what our end users or customers go through. So,
They
and if
came
no
for
one
the
says
DevOps
that,
glory. Yeah.
you should just like, you should just make up a story and be like, well, there was this person, and then you just tell the story and see if anyone latches on, right? Because it's like, well, if you can't find anyone to say that, you just, because somewhere out there, so it's happened. We know it's happened at least.
I like that.
Times.
So you get the application developers together, and to summarize, in an unfair way, what you're saying, I could say like, so is this helpful? This whole thing.
I like it. No, I do like it. Well, because I was thinking back to our shared time many years ago now at BMC. It's like, I definitely couldn't tell. I think you guys could do it too. Like if I had a list, and we will not do it, but like if we had a list of like, here are the developers, right? And here's what happened when they got the pager, right? Like there's definitely specific behaviors that like I can recall that went with certain people. Not everyone was very excited to get the pager. Some were a lot more vocal about it. And other people, I think, walked away with like, they actually did appreciate it, but it was pretty split, right? I think it was kind of split between that group of people. That's just like a very small sample size, but my guess is that's what happens a lot of places.
I think I spent 2 months trying to diagnose one bug that we never fixed. And,
it's still open.
It was all in Java, so it was something to do with memory leaks or something, which is just like, whatever.
Of course.
Yeah.
It was reflection.
Yeah. Well, that's I think the jury's still out on the dev and DevOps. How's that going there? But I think I should start doing these open whatever they are, just be open spaces, because like that would be good for me to kind of sort through that. Now, in a slightly parallel dimension, it turns out going to the Twitter world, that maybe there's some allegations that Twitter security is not so great, right? And this seems like, I don't know. Let me ask more of a meta question. Is just like, is this ongoing drama about security, is this tiring or interesting to talk about? Is it
well, I think the
encouraging,
bullets.
depressing? Like what's going on here?
The part that is interesting is just to say, because I'll just read them off and we can kind of talk about it. Like if you think this is egregious or like where you think it kind of falls. So, there's a huge long report. I haven't read it, but luckily lots of people on the internet have, and they summarized it. So a couple of the key findings here is like from that report were that more than half Twitter employees had direct access to the service's live code, okay, and data. So that's one. 30% of employees' computers were not set up for automatic updates. 60% of data center servers ran an out-of-date operating system, and it goes, and I think that's the common one. So I'll just go first. I read it. I'll just put it on my card. It's like, well, I was like, when I read this, I was like, my immediate thought was like, not bad. That's actually like, what? From when I actually see day to day, that's like, that is not as awful as I've seen, right? And so, Matt and I think a long time ago we did a whole, probably what felt like a whole episode to the listeners on like Windows 2008 end of life and like, just operating systems and like how much of these old operating systems existed. So when I read this, I felt more like, it sort of like made me think of like, oh, Twitter is kind of like average, like just about like every other company. It wasn't like, oh wow, this is crazy. It's like maybe in my mind, I thought they should be better, but then I'm like, no, not really. Like this is kind of what it looks like. So I don't know.
Yeah. When you go over it that way, like there was an interesting hallway conversation I was overhearing with some bank people were talking, and they were the discussion was about how many approval processes there are and how difficult it is to do things and all the tricks people go through to actually get through the process. And, to your point, it's like, yeah, well, do you really want to fix those problems? Because then like everything kind of slows down and it doesn't work. Now, you could also say like, as a frequent Twitter user, it seems like they haven't really been doing that much as far as evolving the features. So maybe they could have more controls in there. But yeah, I mean, now that you pull it out like that, like looking through it and listening through it, like, yeah, that sounds pretty normal. I mean, like, definitely having your employees not set up for automatic like updates and installing stuff. I mean, that's the first thing you do as a developer is totally sabotage anything on your system that you did not install that is going to do anything with the disk and mess with the configuration of your laptop. So that's just like, that's going to happen, right? Like it's fine. And
Well,
the fact that only 30% of the employees can achieve that, they should try harder.
Right. And wait, Kenny, you didn't say it, but like the other 70% are trying to figure out how to do this, right? They're trying to
Yes,
figure out how to
exactly.
keep, the stuff. So I don't know, Matt, what's your take? Like you see a lot of
well,
customers as well.
I mean,
What do you think?
what did they expect? So Mudge is his his hacker
His
nickname
cool
or
name.
whatever. Yeah, his cool name, Peter. What did they expect Mudge to like come away with? He had been at Stripe previously and came in and like locked down Stripe, because developers had access to live banking. Developers' laptops were not secure. Developers were not using two-factor authentication. It's like he's gonna follow, like every CISO in existence is gonna follow a playbook of let's clean up the messes in house before we can
Right. To
make
do the
any
same
new
things.
yeah, we're gonna do the same sane things, and try to clean up this house. And the fact that he got pushback and resistance seems odd, right?
Yeah. And you were raising a point earlier where maybe there is. I don't know how you would do the analysis without it being too egotistical to determine this, but you know, maybe there is a certain profile of company where it's like, yeah, and I guess the banks do this of like, it actually should be pretty hard to do these things, right? Like, it's one thing if you're doing whatever, blah, 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 but like at some point, like you have to run the antivirus software on your laptop. Sorry about
Well, I
that.
mean,
And then
I think treating Twitter like banking infrastructure kind of makes sense.
totally. And then also,
Okay,
I
but
think,
like just to pause right there. Like if I had read these off and I said this is a large bank, like I think like this, like a large bank would not shock me if a large bank has like a profile similar to this.
Oh,
I would not
agree.
find that
I
shocking.
agree, but you don't bring in the Hall of Fame hacker guy to straighten out your bank unless you actually want it to get straightened out.
But I think this is this is a more interesting part of the whole thing. It's like because I think Facebook went through the same thing with the security person they brought in. Was it Stamos? Anyway, so I think what happens
Full House.
is that may be the wrong
Uncle
name. Now I have to
Jesse.
go look it up. But I think what happens is like every company wants to bring in a well-respected security expert to be the CISO, right? Nobody wants to do and pay for or implement the recommendations that they want to then put in. And I think, look at like what happens, like, the Facebook person left. And then now this, it sounds like this person, quote unquote, didn't do a good job, or, there's obviously friction. And I don't know, this just seems like the push and pull you see everywhere. It's like the business. And I think to your point about Twitter, you said earlier about, hasn't been delivering new features under a lot of financial pressure. So in that case, it's like a lot of other businesses. It's like, hey, we're trying to grow revenue. We're trying to make more money. Yeah, that security stuff is important, but we still got to do this other stuff. Like we'll get to it when we get to it. So that's why you end up with like this being a lower priority. So to me, it just resonates with me as like, this is a very similar of all enterprise companies. Everyone's facing the same challenge. How much time and effort do you put on security versus building new stuff? And so I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what comes of it with the Elon Musk lawsuit. So I guess we'll just hear more about it. But, again, wish they did better, but not shocked that that this is the state of Twitter to me at all.
I wonder if in the security thought leadership world or theory world, there's like, it seems like there would be a certain analysis of, at some point, this is the amount of money you're going to need to spend on security to make sure things are secure. And if you're not able to spend that money, you're going to need to change how your business functions, right? And so like, because I feel like the approach a lot of people have with security is like, we need our current business and how we're operating to be secure. And then the response from the security people is often like, I need some money. And then the business is like, no. And then so like, whether they're explicitly no, or they just sort of like figure out a way to weasel out of it. But there must be some constraint of like, oh yeah, to do that kind of thing, you need this amount of security. that you just can't do,
Yeah,
and
and
then
I
the
think
business has to rethink how they're operating.
well, I mean, two thoughts. One, I think when we talk about money, we got to I think it's worth being more specific. It's usually what the real money there is headcount, right? Like I need more people, and that's like the
Right,
thing that
right.
companies are constantly fighting. Like I don't want to be having more people in like what is considered, the operational side of the business. Somebody that's clearly not going to be selling new stuff, even though it's important. So I think it kind of starts there, and then it's just like, how do you make these decisions, right? Because everyone always wants to make more money, right? So at the same time, it's like, well, how much do you focus on security? Yes, it's important. And then most of even now we talk about all of the various breaches we've seen. For the most part, they get dealt with, right? Even like, I don't know, even the ones that are horrible, like the Sony one, SolarWinds still persist on as a company, obviously under different leadership and things like that. But I don't know. There hasn't ever been this moment of like, you're completely out of business, right? Or I mean, maybe there has been, but it doesn't seem like the common case.
Yeah, yeah. Security, always a problem. You got to plan for things breaking and how you're going to recover from it.
Well, the other thing, because we were talking about DevOps, like, the security people are so desperate to get in that they try to like just insert their own word in the middle, right? DevSecOps, but no one will allow that to happen. Like there's never like a DevSecOps Austin or DFW or whatever. It's like these people will keep beating down the door, right? They're I don't even know. Maybe they're not beating down the door. Like maybe one security person's like, we should go to the DevOps conference, and everyone else is like, no. We definitely don't want to go there. So that's a whole nother world that can't crash the party. That seems to be very siloed even to this day.
Yeah, we need some security person to have the same open spaces concept. All security people come to this open space, and we'll ask them if this is.
And we'll complain. We'll complain about developers, and then we'll complain about operations.
I'd be amazed if you could find even a handful to complain to each other. That would be impressive nonetheless. Just the fact that there were there's going to be
some there's going to be some SecOps guy, right? Somebody who is it's not going to be DevSec. It's going to be SecOps.
SecOps. Okay. There you go. Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good. Well, going a little bit back to my, expat back in the States analysis, I of course, I've been pursuing all the delicious foods. Like, for example, I got a Dr. Pepper earlier today. Now,
there you go.
Now, I am fully aware that Dr. Pepper is now available in the Netherlands, but I just feel like having Dr. Pepper in Texas would be a completely different experience.
Wait.
I feel like it is.
Two Dr. Pepper things. One, they closed the Dr. Pepper factory in Dublin. So which means no one will ever go to Dublin, Texas again. Sorry. Two, they have Dr. Pepper here in our grocery store, but it's under International Foods from the UK. I don't know what's up with that.
Whoa. That is interesting. And
is he like Barrister Pepper? What do they call Dr.
Pepper? Wouldn't they call it like Dr. Peppery? Like what would the Australian for Dr. Pepper be? Like Dr. P or something. Anyways, Dr. P. That might be what they say. That brand would not work out well. Alternate name for Mountain Dew. But I went to get a breakfast taco this morning, and I learned from last time I was here that instead of ordering 2 breakfast tacos, because I'm progressing through life, I should just have one, and I won't feel sick afterwards. So I ordered my 1 breakfast taco, and I found some nice little taqueria, and I specifically had brought in cash because I was like, I don't know, they're probably not going to take Amex, and I got to do this magnetic swipe thing, but they totally accepted my Apple Pay. It was great. It was like one of these old Taco Bell buildings that had been purchased and converted into a taco stand. And sure enough, I feel like I need some input on this, Brandon. It feels like maybe America can now pay with their phone, right? Like you don't have to. I still couldn't do this at the P.F. Chang's in the Detroit airport. That was a little disappointing. But I feel like things have been progressing here. Is this been your experience?
For sure, like any type of like fast casual restaurant or kind of like, although I'm just trying to think HEB now that I say that, I'm just going to say no, I was going to say grocery stores. So it's like, it's definitely offered a lot more places. And I think, kind of, there was this write up this week is from the Wall Street Journal, just kind of saying, I think it's up to 90% of, terminals here in the US now accept it. So I just think it's, like, I think we say this every time about the various Apple, initiatives. It's always like, Apple Music, they should just buy Spotify. And then whatever, 3 years go by. It's like, oh, well, looks like they have just about as many users, right? Or
Yeah.
it just goes on. And I think this is just another example of like Apple just is like the king of the long game. They're just like, yep, we're gonna put this out there. Everyone's gonna make fun of it, how it's not used, and then now here we are, however many years later, and I think they're well on their way. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever get to 100%, but they're well into the 90 percentiles, and it'll probably, and it has gotten a lot easier, right? I mean, kind of like the different terminals have made it a lot easier. And I think there's even, as I've talked about on the show before, like there's probably some even simpler things they could do to make it even easier. But I don't know. Apple just continues to win at this.
I bet, I wonder what the biz dev team is at Apple that works with like Ingenico and all those like, all the people who are the payment terminals, right? Because that's like a major component of it is just like rolling out those little terminals. Like, over in Europe, everyone's got these little like handheld remote, and I think it is INGNCO or whatever. They're kind of all the same
Ingenico?
terminals.
Yeah.
They all look the same. And so like at some point there must have been a lot of steaks that people ate over there in Cupertino between these two companies just to like meld the stuff together. Because I feel like once I see one of those, like I can use it. But if someone doesn't have that, then it's just like some madness. And who is that? And do you know who those people are, Matt Ray? Being from the POS industry, are they a big deal?
Yeah. I mean, there's. Do we really want to go down this rat hole? Yes, there are a couple.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, there are 3 or 4 largish point of sale accessory vendors, and Ingenico is one of them. And I can't remember anybody else right now, but back in the long ago days, I did work on Java point of sale devices before USB.
Before USB. Oh.
Yeah.
Where you had like pins and
well, yeah. Good times.
Well, to save us from this before you go any further, we get any further down the rat hole, I did want to get your take, Matt, because you're often thinking a lot about ads. I do think the other thing Apple has announced, which is, I don't know, just sort of just right out of some type of business book, whatever, destroy your enemy while you make more money. So Apple, I think, as we've talked about before, sort of, kind of cost Facebook something like $10 billion. And now they are poised to, I guess, grow, as it's reported, their ad revenue. I guess it's like in the low single digit billions, trying to double it to like 12 billion dollars, to say, in the next few years. So like, I don't know what it seems like from a business standpoint in the Harvard case study, when Barton's, on his alumni visit, he can go back and talk to it. It seems like they'll just say this was a great idea. It's like, this is exactly what you do. You just, you cut your legs out from your competitors and then you take all the money. But like, what do you think about more ads coming to Apple? Are you looking for some type of iPhone ad blocker? Are you building one yourself?
Yes, yes and yes. I mean, so longtime listeners may know that I recently switched to an iPhone just because I was like kind of tired of how invasive Google was in their security or in their advertising and security posture, and it felt invasive, and I was like, well, at least Apple has my privacy in mind, and not as open a platform, but they always seem to do right. And then of course, I feel good about them cutting out Facebook, but long-term trends, they'll probably become the next Facebook of buying a couple credit agencies so they can they already have all your financial data, and they're tracking all your usage and all the websites you go to, and then turn around and sell those ads to other people so that you can get direct ads on your phone. And it's like, damn it. So yeah, there's a bleak dystopian future of ads on your phone coming. What can you do about it? Well, I don't know.
Well, the first party ads, I think, are here, right? I think they're going to try to make as much money as possible. I think the bridge there, the bridge too far maybe, or the bridge yet crossed, would be the third party ads. Would be like, okay, but once it's up and running, right, and once they're making 12 billion, somebody's going to walk in and say, hey, what we could do? We can make even more money, right? They'll pull up the Google ad numbers and be like, what we could do? We could sell these. So I don't know. I always have different feelings about it. Like I kind of go back and forth. Like I almost just feel like if it annoys me too much is really what I care about more than I don't know, the privacy stuff. Of course, I don't love it, but I kind of just sort of like, well, that's the world we live in. But yeah, once I open up Apple Music and it takes me like 10 minutes to close the pop-ups to like find a playlist, then I'll be like, okay, it's gone too far.
Yeah, I mean, if it affects the usability, then of course it's terrible, right? Or if it causes egregious things in your life, you don't want that either. But I think I think that's earlier y'all raised a good point about Apple, or you did, Brandon, which I guess is what people would say is like, yeah, they just, they do kind of what everyone else does, but it takes them like 5 years before it's like all of a sudden is an overnight success. Which I guess if you were to look at the ad space, you would, following that pattern, you could be like, well, of course they're going to be in ads in like maybe 3 years from now, and they'll be selling ads. And it seems like maybe the Apple way of doing it would be like, yeah, but what if you just like could only do it in the Apple world, right? Like instead of it being like, the way, I mean, it's almost like it's weird to apply these things, but like Facebook and Google are like the open web version of ads. And I can imagine that Apple would just be like, no, these ads only work in the Apple world. That's it.
Yeah.
We don't do anything else.
Well,
And
they'll probably turn around to like the ad supported games, right? So they're like, we're going to show you ads, and Apple's like, tell you what we'll do. You put a hook in your app to show an ad, and instead of going farming it out to Google, you come to us, and we will show that user a very specific ad and tell you what, buy it from us. We'll charge you a reasonable amount, and you'll get better placement, and we'll probably keep them a little more secure than the other folks. We'll keep their privacy a little. We can give you exceptionally targeted information about them, but or we can sell you the ads, but we won't give you the information.
Right. That'll be
because the Google, I don't know what Facebook's sort of motto here is, but the Google thing is like, what is it, like organize the world's information or something like that?
Yeah.
And then the Facebook one is, like I said, I don't
move
know what
fast and break things.
Yeah. But I feel like,
is that not right?
Like I thought it was like connecting the world or something.
Sorry, I'll look that up.
I think maybe the Apple vision is, what if there was just one company? And that's kind of like what they're driving towards is like, the old what would they say in the cyberpunk world, the Zaibatsu or something like that, but like just like the one gigantic organization. And I guess if you had kind of based them on like Sony and like you wouldn't base it on Samsung, but it's more of just like, but what if
those are good? Those are fair comparisons, right? Big,
well, I remember Steve Jobs as a big Sony
companies
fan.
that dominate countries. Right.
And so I think maybe that's like the vision that Apple is shooting for. So therefore, the privacy concerns you have about like ads and stuff, like it's not that they don't apply, it's that they're different, because the privacy concerns that you have with these other companies is like all these other entities get access to stuff. Whereas Apple would be like, no, only us. We're the only ones who know everything about you.
Yeah,
no one else knows everything about you. Only us.
And they've taken the effort to secure their laptops. So when they start sharing that financial information from your Apple Pay to the advertisers to be like, oh, you want to make sure that this person spends at least $4,000 a month with their Apple Card. We got you. Right.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's worth, because like, all these things come out and then people predict they're not going to do well, like Apple Pay, then they do well. So I guess maybe it's worth to like just take the current thing. So the current thing I think most people are skeptical of is the Apple Car operating system thing that they kind of announced. They showed some screenshots. I think most people were completely dismissive of it. I think my reaction is probably something similar, like, that seems weird. And it's like, but if we just say like, based on some of their track record, it's like, well, it's possible they'll license some type of operating system to a bunch of car makers and like kind of make the Apple Car that way, right? And we'll all be like, turns out this operating system is pretty good. Like, I don't know, we'll be driving a car.
Right. I mean,
actually, you know what? We thought it was crazy, but now we actually like the new Apple Car OS, and we want our new cars to have it. So, I mean, even if I say that, it seems crazy to think, but it's like, I don't know. I probably would have said, maybe I'd say the same thing about payments, or people said the Apple Watch they were very skeptical of, or the iPad. And it's like, I don't know. They've gone on to be pretty big hits.
Yeah. Or you would just buy a car from Apple. That would be very Apple-y. That would be amazing. Or maybe it wouldn't be amazing. We'll see. Maybe if this Twitter deal falls through, the Tesla stock will go down, and then Apple can just buy them and sort that whole thing out. Like, that seems like if you were gonna have like a crazy executive founder type, maybe Apple is the only place that kind of like knows how to deal with that. Like they're sort of founded on dealing with a crazy like
Elon
But-
Musk takes over the Johnny
they
Ive
didn't.
seat.
They didn't buy.
at Apple.
They didn't buy. Oh no. They didn't buy Spotify, right? They built their own. So they they look.
Oh,
They watch Tesla, and they're like, all right, check those boxes, figure out what they did, and we'll start our own thing.
They hire
there's
people
just-
from the company, right? That's the
Yeah.
other thing. They hire all the quote unquote really smart people. That's what they're doing with their, I guess, their networking chips when they open the office down in San Diego.
imagine like an Apple car, just like with the cables, like every 5 years there'd be like different tires. And you would
Europe
be
won't
like,
let 'em do that.
why is
Yeah.
this the only car that requires these bizarre tires that we always have to swap?
No,
out?
it would be
Like,
better. It would be like, what kind of nuts are these tires hooked on with? You have to have like a special adapter. To, like,
Proprietary
the
lug
mechanics,
nuts,
like I don't
right?
have anything. I can't, like, I don't have the air gun socket
to-
connector. You know,
to,
you
to,
can't
to
do it.
fix, to put some air in your tire, you have to take it to the Genius bar. And, have,
Right,
have
and you just
Hey,
literally like
genius, fill the tires.
you drop the entire car off and they just give you a new one, right? They're like, okay, yeah, it's under the Apple Care, so just go for it. So I look forward for that in a few years.
Well, speaking about care, Brandon, do we have any bureaucracy this episode?
Just a little bit. Well, Cote's, as he's mentioned, he's in Dallas, but hopefully he'll be making the drive to Austin here very soon. So
I
if
hope
you
so
hear
as
this, if you hear this, I guess on Friday or Saturday morning, if you're that kind of person, and we are doing a meetup. All the details are in the show notes here. So come out. I think I know we're having it at the Pine House. So you can have some pizza, some beer. You can talk to myself. Or Cote. We can't get Matt in yet. So I don't know. Maybe for the next one, we'll find a way to get Matt here. So definitely check it out. And then also I sent some stickers to Steven in Norway. So I think we've rounded out the Nordic region. I think we got all the countries. I have to look it up. So enjoyed sending stickers in. If you'd like a sticker, all you have to do is send your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, and I will be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world.
We should maybe we should run a sticker contest. Speaking of the Nordic countries, where whoever can take a picture of a sticker as far north as possible will win. What they win is winning.
Is winning. Like, well, I
So
think this
winning is
person.
I don't know.
I
maybe
think
there's some-
Steven did tell me that he was because I, of course, always make some small talk, but I was just like, oh, I bet you the weather's great in Norway. And he was like, and I think he told me he lives pretty far north, so I think he's got a good start on that one. He may be.
Yeah, all right.
I have to get the
all
globe
Well,
out, see what other
what you got?
countries,
right.
but
Get the globe out.
I don't know. I don't know,
Maybe-
Matt. Maybe do you have the furthest south? I guess that's got to be one of our
There's
Australian
got-
listeners.
that's farther south than Sydney. I mean, Melbourne. If we got
Okay.
anybody in Hobart, yeah.
All right, we'll see. Maybe we can figure that out. Who's the furthest north? Who's the furthest south? I like that. Good idea.
Maybe South Africa is going to sneak.
Yeah,
up
and
on
to
us.
reiterate, we'd love to hear about it. And the goal is you just win. That's it. You're not getting anything else. So I don't want to I want to make
Winning
sure
is
like you
winning.
opt into this contest. Like it's like DevOps. I just want you to know if you do any work on this, you're just going to get a shout out. That's all we have.
Oh
for
yeah,
you.
New Zealand's
win.
farther south.
Oh, New Zealand. Okay, well, we definitely have some people in New Zealand, so that's good.
All right. Well, we've got the good theory. We just need some GPS photographs that show us a sticker somewhere, and we'll determine whichever one is the furthest north. And then after this, we'll have the furthest south, and then to totally blow people's minds, the furthest west and the furthest east. Which I don't know how
that's going to be
determine that on the
controversial.
sphere, but we'll figure it out. Well, there's also many conferences coming up. Now, there's still tomorrow. You could still come to the next day of DevOps Days Dallas if you somehow, I guess you could listen to this when we're recording it. And then next week, I'll be in San Francisco for VMware Explore, August 29th to September 1st. If you go to cote.io/explore, you can browse around and look at what's there. And then, Matt Ray, what's the Sydney Cloud FinOps meetup on October 13th? Is that going to be cool?
Yeah, it's going to be cool. I'm giving a talk about Kubernetes costs and working in the cloud. So check that out. If it was going to be in person, but now it looks like it's going to be virtual. So the Sydney Cloud FinOps I will be presenting.
So what you're telling me is that Kubernetes doesn't already do good billing reporting. Is that true?
Did you really think it would do that? I mean, come on. I get like some of your other complaints about Kubernetes, but understanding cost management of the underlying cloud as it applies to your applications, it's a bit of a stretch.
I don't know. I mean,
Does VMware do that for bare metal?
I don't, I'm not familiar with that part of our portfolio. But
No.
there is some financial stuff there. What did we used to call that in ITEL? What was the name for the financial stuff? There was some phrase for it, but I forget. I should look that up. Obviously, I'm not certified, or my certification has lapsed. Now, there's also KubeCon in the U.S. October 24th to 28th. I believe we're a media sponsor of that.
Yeah.
Which is thrilling. That's
Are
nice
you
of
going,
the
Brandon?
folks.
Or are either of y'all going?
Not sure yet. We'll see. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. But I think Coach, the EU one is in Amsterdam, so that you may have a real easy time. That may be a real
Yeah,
easy
I'll
one
have to
for you
look
to
that
go
up.
to.
I
So
might be going. So
Yeah, I need to look that up because that would be nice to go to. I could just bike over there. Now it'd be a bummer because I won't get qualifying airline flights or Marriott Bonvoy points.
we'll find a resonance. Renaissance. What is it? What is the name of the
Renaissance?
hotel? Renaissance. Find and just stay there. Find it in Amsterdam and just stay there for the night and be like, well, it
It'd be
wasn't that good here
hilarious if
either.
they had those little coffee machines and they had like come across the Atlantic to populate Amsterdam. And then also we have Spring One platform coming up December 6th and 8th. One of my talks was rejected and I was dejected, but then the other talk was accepted. So I'm pleased about that. And then the call for counselors, which is to say talks and papers, is open for that conference in Texas, which is January 16th and 19th. You should go check that out. Now, if you want to look at get links to those things instead of Googling or DuckDuckGoing or using Lycos for that, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/374, which is the episode number. You can find links to those conferences, all sorts of other things we talked about and we didn't talk about, and more information. Now with that, Matt Ray, what do you have to recommend this episode?
I have an anti-recommendation, which is, come on, Amazon, you're shipping. Check this out. A little audio treat for you. What does that sound like? That is not how you ship ceramic mugs, Amazon. This is the shipping envelope that it came in, and they shipped me ceramic mugs, loose, in a bag. And they came in just completely shards. And it's so ridiculous because they want me to ship them back.
They want you to ship them back.
Yes.
That's good. So okay, so your anti-recommendation is broken coffee mugs
Yes.
from Amazon.
Now,
Do you have the kind of household where I don't know if this is a normal thing or just an 80s thing where you save up broken ceramic stuff to put at the bottom of your potted plants to allow for water flow or something. I never understood what that was.
Yeah, no, we're renters, Cote. We don't have space for the hoarding.
How about yourself, Brandon? What do you have to recommend?
All right, well, two things. One, I just want to say thank you to Venmo support. So this past week, I had to pay something on behalf of my wife, and I inadvertently put in the wrong username. So the username that was almost the same, and ended up paying them. Like it was like, not a huge sum of money, but a sum of money that really hurt. And so I don't know if you've ever read this. If you actually do this, and obviously Venmo gets this question a lot. It's like the money's gone, right? So you can't really get it back. So I accidentally sent it to someone I didn't know. So there was really, it's not like all you can do is request it back. There's no you can't call the person and be like, hey, Coach, I just made this mistake, send the money back. So luckily though, they were very nice. I kind of got on there frantically. I sent in a request and they found a way to kind of work it out and gave me my money back. So I really appreciate this. And then we won't go down a long discussion of it today, but I just sort of I'm not ready for the Bitcoin blockchain. I don't want to live in a world where every small keystroke mistake can never be reversed. I don't want to live in the non-reversible world, if you will. So thank you to Venmo. I appreciate them taking care of me. And then for the recommendation this week it actually came out. I think Matt, maybe you even recommended it in the Software Defined Talk Slack. It was the Sandman audiobook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was the one I listened to. Not surprisingly, was on Audible, and it's really more like an audio drama. I mean, incredibly really well produced. I mean, they have top name actors in many. There's probably I don't know.
I was thinking 10, I only listened to the first one. I need to pick up the second one.
Yeah. So if you're, I wasn't, I guess it's part of the DC universe. I didn't really know that much about where Sandman fits in, but it's it's pretty interesting. It was the whole thing was really interesting, and it's like it was a great listen. If you're interested in audiobooks, like this is a special one to listen to because it really is. Like I said, it's more than a book. It's like a dramatic reading of it with lots of characters. So if that's your thing, check out The Sandman on Audible.
Well, yeah. Have you seen the TV show, Brandon?
I don't know, somebody, I think that was also talked about in the Slack. Someone kind of pointed it out and said it wasn't really good. So I watched like 30 minutes of it and then I fell asleep. And then the book I thought was really good because someone said, I think it was Jordy said the book's really good. So I guess I just go with that. I haven't really watched the TV show, so I can't tell you if it's good or bad. Have you, Kote? Has anyone seen it? And is it good?
I watched the first episode. It was I've listened to both the audiobooks. I've never really read the comics, but the first episode was good. It's obviously much different than the books or whatever, or it's paced out differently. So that's nice. It's nice when it's kind of like the American Gods TV show. Like it's like kind of sort of like the book, but different enough.
Yeah, that one I never finished it. That kind of, I don't know. I lost steam after second season.
Yeah. It kind of proves the lesson that like if you have a book that you really like and you're like, oh man, I'm so sad this book was over. It's like no, it was the exact right length. Like, you don't want to keep.
Well, Kote, that's funny. I thought this. I didn't like American Gods as much as you, but good. But I don't know. The Sandman kind of it reminded me a little bit of. It's different, obviously. It's different books, but kind of I don't know. I felt like it was like some similar ideas. I don't know. What do you think? I know you like that book a lot too.
Yeah, I mean it's from the same author, so like it's, he kind of like in a good way, kind of sort of like writes the same universe over and over again, like whatever that is.
But I guess I don't know. I just was more captivated by this universe. I guess I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but it was interesting.
Yeah,
I like it. Maybe go ahead.
No, I think it's. I mean, I think it's more diverse and there's a lot more going on. I mean, it's like a comic book format, right? I'm being all pedantic here, but like, so it has the like. Hopefully, when you're doing comic books, especially if I remember at this point in his career, you're like, I never want this to end because it's great revenue, right? And so, like, I imagine when you're at that point in your career and you're kind of crafting a universe of comic books, you're always trying to like open up more possibilities than close them out, right? Like, and and you see that in the audio thing where like all of a sudden there'll be these stories that are like totally unrelated to anything. You're like, God damn it! Now I got to listen to the story that is not involved in normal plot. And then at the end,
there's a lot of that in the Sandman.
At the end, like what's his face dream is going to show up and just be like, "Oh, can I eat the rest of that sandwich?" And then that's the tie-in, right? And it's totally unrelated to anything else. And so like, you just got to have that kind of filler. But my follow-on recommendation is I forget his name. But if you haven't done a Google search for the producer of the Sandman audiobooks, you should really treat yourself and go do a Google image search for whatever that guy's name is. And just like, it's a very, very unique visual character going on there. And just kind of dig deep into that and enjoy the visuals of what's there. So my recommendation, it's a high-level recommendation and then a specific one, is I recently rediscovered a principle that I think even in Austin, great Austin, where we've got HEB discovered, which is like chances are high that maybe, depending on if you have an HEB locally or not, but like if you don't like your grocery stores, what you should probably start doing is shopping at the Asian supermarket, because it's probably superior to what you're going to find at your regular market. And I think this is definitely going to be true in the Netherlands, because we discovered 2 Asian supermarkets just right down the street from us, and they're fantastic. Right, they got all your produce, they get all your meat, and one of them does. The other one is a little weird, but the one and this is in the Netherlands, so you got to remember they have different diction and word choice. It's called Amazing Oriental, and I think it's a chain that they have, but it's fantastic. It looks like it's not going to be good from the outside, but then you go in and it's great. And not only do they have all the regular stuff, but they have like the variety of food from not only, as they would say, the Orient, but from all sorts of different places. So you can actually, you can go in there and you can buy, the big spice container that's, I don't know, about as big as a trade paperback book. You can buy that size of Old Bay for what now would be called $15 or 15 euros. Like Old Bay seasoning, which I don't know if that's even available in the States, but they have everything you need there. So check out. I of course go to Amazing Oriental Daufendrecht, my local one, and it's good stuff. I think we'll start shopping there more. They even have a pretty good looking meat counter. astoundingly so sub recommendation there is I got the roasted coconut juice, which I've had many of, perhaps too many. You should pursue that. Now, speaking of things you should pursue, you have once again pursued a fantastic episode of Software Defined Talk. If you want to get the show notes for this episode, which has everything we talked about and, well, many of the things we talked about and many things that we didn't, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/374 and check that out. And remember, what we recommend doing is anytime you have access to a device that can be subscribed to an RSS feed, whether it's yours, your children's, maybe like an LG or a Samsung TV with a podcast device, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. You don't have to listen to it. Just make sure that it's continually downloading it. And that is perhaps the best way or a way to support this podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well done, Cote. You're gonna have to put some links in on those recommendations. No way I'm finding that. So I was like,
Yeah,
like
looking
what?
forward to that.
Like what
Wait,
did he
wait,
say?
hold on.
What,
I'm
what was
putting
the
it in
name
right
of
now.
that? You don't have to do it now. I mean, just at some point. I was
Well,
like,
if
I don't
do
even
it
know how
now,
to.
it won't be done.
I can't. It sounded like a Harry Potter thing. You know what you said? So I was like, what? What is it called? It's like,
It's called Amazing Oriental. It's just an Asian grocery
oh, okay.
store.
No, I guess it was like you said, Dwarven. I don't know. Maybe I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah, you're
that's
right.
that's
I guess
the
I
city
was.
that I live in.
That's a suburb.
Dalkendrecht.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess I was listening but not listening. I guess I should.
That's
do better.
okay. No, you should. You could stand to do worse.
All right. All right, man. Well, good. Well, hey, like I put for everyone streaming, it's in local here in Austin. Put the details to the meetup, so you don't really have to sign up. But I was just trying to get a head count. So I think we'll have between 10 and 15, Cote. That's my guess. I think.
Wow. Huh.
Although I don't know. I guess we have to talk to some events people. I think we'll have some known no shows, and then we'll have some unknown shows. That's how I think it's going to work out.
You got an industry standard response of what is it like? You maybe 30%. Well, no, you're going to have like 10% dropout. Maybe even 15. But we might be such a popular thing that we buck those numbers in the right way.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
I'm there's a chance I might be going to KubeCon in Detroit.
Okay. Well,
I didn't really want to use the media sponsorship. That felt abusive.
Well, they give it.
They did. Well, I don't know if I'll offer.
well, you
my
can use
employer.
the maybe not to travel, but if I don't know if you
Yeah.
want the pass or like.
Oh yeah,
hotel.
yeah. I could probably pull the pass, but if nobody else is going,
Will they pay for travel?
I don't know. Huh? They offered travel, and I was just like, they don't mean from Australia.
Huh.
I don't know. I mean, I think you can ask. I forwarded it to you too, Cote. I don't know if you're interested, but
Yeah,
the
maybe I
Amsterdam one, I think for sure you should go to. That's easy. I was gonna at least do, at a minimum, I was gonna and you know who's gonna be is Chris gonna be at the at least he said he'd be at the meetup. So maybe we'll talk to him a little bit about. I could get some details actually, Matt.
Yeah,
if you want,
yeah.
get some details. Just say like, hey, Matt's
Well,
gonna
so-
be there or could be there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they want like members of our team to go to either reInvent or KubeCon.
Okay.
And I was just like, reInvent's closer. But now I'm kind of leaning towards KubeCon.
As in Las Vegas versus Detroit. Is that what you? is that what
yeah,
you mean?
closer because I'm going to be on a plane for 15 hours to get to LA, and then
Okay. I don't know. I
you
just
know.
feel like at that point it's like, it's all the same.
Yeah,
You know?
well, yeah. And so now I'm kind of leaning towards KubeCon. I'm like, whatever, what's another 4 hours versus 1 hour?
All right. Well, let me check with
That's
Chris.
accurate.
Just like, hey, I'll just say that you're thinking about going. And I don't know. I'll try to get more details and like what's appropriate, if you will. So
Yeah.
okay.
So
All right.
I didn't
Well,
really
thanks.
think about that, but I should think through that. That might be interesting.
Well, if anyone else is going to be at KubeCon, listening on the show or in the future, like let us know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe
yeah,
that's
yeah. I
another thing.
mean,
do like
I
a little
haven't
meetup.
decided yet. So but it is now on my radar. It wasn't before.
All right, good. All right, well, thanks for everyone on the stream. It's always great to have you watch along. Watch as they say, as the sausage is being made, as the show is being made. So I think there's only one. I was interrupted, Cote, there, so I got like one big edit and a lot of small edits. So it should be good. All right, thanks everyone. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye bye.